Greetings, and welcome back to English 102 at South Seattle Community College. This is Dr. McCarthy. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about how to write a rhetorical analysis and why I ask you to write one. A rhetorical analysis really is a paper that explores whether or not a piece of text can be effective as an argument. What do I mean when I say a text? Well, I could mean anything from a written piece of work, such as a book of fiction, such as the book 1984, or even an academic paper. I could talk about a text as being a speech given by a politician, or even an advertisement on your television set. I could talk about a text as being a YouTube video, or even a song. Almost anything is a kind of text, and almost everything is a kind of argument. Even if we are standing in a museum and we are looking at, for example, Peter Max. He was a famous 1960s artist, and he has this wonderful painting called Love. And it is very 1960s. Love is big lettering with swooshy colors making up a woman's hair. And when I look at this picture, even I see an argument. I see an argument for love. And I wonder to myself, is that argument effective? Just about everything that we find around us in our life contains some kind of argument. And it is up to us to decide whether or not those arguments are effective, or if they're built upon fallacy, or if they weren't well thought out. So when we write a rhetorical analysis, we are basically trying to explore whether or not the author has offered us a very good argument, or if the argument is weak. So that's the deal with the rhetorical analysis. Now let's talk about how we can write one. In our case, we're going to write a rhetorical analysis about the book 1984. So there's some information you're going to want to gather about this book before you get started. For example, the first thing you need to know is who the authors are, or was. And you need information about the author. When was the author writing? What kind of work was the author writing? What was the author's message within this work? And was there any historical influences that might have influenced the author when he was writing the book? In this case, it is a he. Of course, we have 1984 is written by Orwell, so you'll want to find out some background information about him. Next, you need to know who the intended audience for this particular text is. In this case, of course, 1984 is a general fiction book, so it probably is for a general audience as compared to, for example, if you were reading an academic article, which might be for a very specific academic audience. Next, we have to understand the general context in which the book has come into play. When was the book written? When was the first time the book was shown? What was the influences back then when the book was written compared to the influences in today's world when you, as the audience, are reading the book? Next, you're going to want to make sure that you have a good summary of the book 1984. This can be a short but sweet summary, but in the same token, you have to make sure that the summary is complete enough that your audience has a better idea about what the book is about. You need to assume that your audience, and that is even if you're writing for me in this particular case, but you need to assume that your audience has never read the book 1984, that they have no idea what they are about ready to embark on. And it is your job as the author of this particular rhetorical analysis to be able to give a good picture to your reader. As writers, we always have to make sure that we present things in such a way that we can educate our audience on what we are talking about without insulting them. This is a very delicate thing to do, but it's extremely important. We cannot assume that whoever is going to be our reader, that they will have a particular piece of information that we are discussing. To assume that the reader knows what we are writing about means that we are not taking his or her own interests in our concern and in our interest when we're writing, when we are the author. So you want to make sure that you give enough information so that if your reader doesn't know the text or even a point that you might be bringing up in your reading, that you're giving that person enough information so that they don't have to make huge assumptions or spend a great deal of time researching that information. All right, so after you have all these little pieces of information, the author, the time period, the context of the book, and the summary, now we're going to get to the major meat of this particular assignment. We're going to look at the rhetorical elements, the elements that come together to make a piece of writing persuasive or not. The rhetorical elements are these: ethos, logos, and pathos. Ethos refers to the character of usually the author, but also the character of the piece. For example, if you read a story about aliens coming down and invading the earth from the Inquirer, you may not give that character, that newspaper, as much credence as you would the New York Times. Ethos looks at credence. It looks at the character of the author or even the publication, and it asks, well, is this person reputable? Can I trust them from their reputation? Is the publication a reputable publication? Can I trust that it's coming from a good place? The more reputable the author is or the publication is, the more likely that you as a reader will respect it. Logos. Logos refers to logic, and we're looking at many different things regarding the logic. For example, if we're discussing the text 1984, we're looking at whether or not the arguments given in this book are logical. For example, if you're looking at Big Brother and the Big Brother's politics, does Big Brother present themselves in a logical way or not? If not, why? And if so, why? In Big Brother, we do seem to have a lot of people who believe in Big Brother's arguments, so there must be some kind of logic there. But what is the logic? And how does that logic work on us, the reader of this particular book? So look at the logic of these particular arguments and then tell and explain whether or not they hold together. The next rhetorical element is pathos. Pathos refers to emotion and the emotional appeal that the text is making on the audience or the reader. In this particular case, 1984, does it affect you as your reader, as the reader, in an emotional way? If so, why? Why is it affecting you emotionally? And is it working? Are you pulling on elements in your own society in order to be swayed emotionally? Do you have maybe a history back when this book was written, sometime family history in 1947 when this book was published, that you are pulling on? What is the emotional aspect of this particular book? Now, these three rhetorical elements, ethos, logos, and pathos, is the key to this assignment. You need to make sure that you look at the three different rhetorical elements and you decide and explain in your paper how they are working and why they are working. Make sure that this element is added in your paper, because if it's not, then you basically have an annotated bibliography and not a rhetorical analysis. All right? After you have looked at the three rhetorical elements, I want you to analyze the text, if you will, in conjunction with the rhetorical elements. Look at the style. Is the style formalized? Is the style of the text informal? Do you have sarcasm in here or something else? So step 1 had you gathering certain pieces of information about the text. Step 2 has you looking at the rhetorical elements, logos, pathos, and ethos, and how those rhetorical elements play out in the text. And then finally, step 3 is you take the time to analyze the text itself. Look at the text in relation to the rhetorical elements. Also look at things like such as, is the text formalized or informal? Do you find satire in the text, or is it purely dramatic? Are there any more metaphors being used? Are there any symbols? Archetypal characters being used? If no, or if yes, why? Explore this. Analyze whether the text is effective generally for a general audience or for the specific audience which you have identified in step 1 of the rhetorical analysis. Once you have all this information together, you're going to be ready to write your paper. Now, if you look at the slideshow that I have prepared, you'll see that I have examples of the kind of information you'll need in your introduction and in the different body paragraphs of the paper. Remember that this paper, just like all other body papers in this class, must have a good academic form. That means that you start off with a good introduction, that you have several paragraphs that make up the body of your paper, and you have a good conclusion to your paper. I will be looking for each of these elements in your paper. Also, remember to revise, edit, and proofread your papers. Now, I know that it can be sometimes difficult to find the time, but I highly suggest that you start working on this paper early, and then you'll give yourself enough time for editing and revising later on. Proofreading is one of the most important skills that we can all develop, and it is a skill that we worked on developing throughout our lifetime. It is not necessarily something that comes easy to each of us. Now, I've been asked a few times how long this paper should be. It really doesn't need to be any more than 5 pages in length, and it could be as short as 4 pages in length. But I want you to make sure to go ahead and use the MLA paper style form for all citations. You will have to do some citing of quotes and use some quotes from the book 1984 in your paper, and I want to make sure that you use proper citation procedures as well with that. If you do have additional questions, you know I am always an email away. Thank you very much, and I hope this presentation has given you a little bit to think about. Have a good day. Goodbye.